How's it going? How are you all? Hey, so there are reports coming in about these armored vehicles that are starting to appear all over Iran, especially in the bigger cities. And this, well, they say that there's simply no way out anymore. Right now, they're watching to see whether opposition movements and possible protests are mobilizing. And in response to this, the Iranians want to be ready. According to reports, armored vehicles from the security forces of the Islamic Republic have been deployed in Tehran and in Karmashat. Well, that's the conflict, that's war. But according to reports, this would indicate a growing movement of regimes, and of the regime, let's say, of the opponents of the Ayatollahs, in which they claim there have been disturbances. This is basically causing instability, right? Now, for the moment, honestly, I don't have the evidence. I haven't seen their videos. Also, remember that there has been a total internet shutdown. So, seeing this is also complicated. Do you agree? I mean, it's hard to observe if it's actually happening. What can be verified with these images, at least, is that these riot police, these anti-riot units and armored vehicles are being deployed and so on. And either it's because they're expecting troops to enter by land, which honestly, well, right now that's unlikely, yes. And another thing is that maybe this issue of riots is true. What has been seen are signs of discontent, but a discontent that has hardly come to light. Why? Because they fear for their lives. Let's be honest, the repression has been very severe. But since we're here, well, in images and all this stuff, not like the state. So greetings, very good. Let's move to the next image. Take a look at this topic. Hey, well, it's quite a situation also regarding air traffic. We're seeing on the screen what was visible just a few moments ago. We were talking about it. There's starting to be some suspicion, and planes are being observed circling around with commercial flights taking a detour. I mean, they don't want to get close anymore, especially because now there have been movements of military planes. Global air traffic keeps moving away, keeps circling around. Let's see, here it is, because it's kind of strange here. The map is actually flipped, I think. Let's see, let's put it the right way. There it is. There you go, there you go. Now you can understand it. Here at the bottom part in the south, let's say, is the Strait of Hormuz, and in the north is the Caspian Sea. Notice how the planes go all the way around to avoid getting even a little bit close to that area. Now, for example, air traffic in the Gulf countries is very busy. I mean, we know it has been operating, although today there were some pauses because of what's happening. But pay attention to this. In the end, as they say, this and the oil prices show that this is far from over. Now, also check out the following image. Well, we're also still seeing movements that are related to the conflict, let's say. Let me show you this image. Now, these videos or these images. Let me show you this one. These planes, the famous AKC-130 and KC-135 tanker, have been seen again near Iran. Tel Aviv. According to reports, it supposedly took off from Ben Gurion, the airport in Tel Aviv. As soon as it left, as soon as the plane took off, they turned off the transponder. Well, obviously they went into stealth mode, so to speak. And not only that, but also a KC-46 Pegasus tanker would be flying over Iraq. We also mentioned that a moment ago. Another thing is that these planes don't fly alone. Obviously, when the tanker planes are moving forward, it's because there are usually jets around, especially if you're going to get close to Iraq, not Iran. Sorry, so the refueling planes are over Iraq, according to reports. They are heading somewhere between northern Iraq and the Gulf area, apparently. They could also bring, for example, troops that land, for example, via the east. I mean, how? Or rather, for parachuting and that kind of thing, which I insist, I really doubt. But the urgent meeting that took place is striking, even though his son had a wedding.
Well, not his son. No. Well, yes, he did have the wedding, but he canceled the wedding himself from the start. He wasn't planning to go since the morning because he had events this weekend is Memorial Day commemorating World War II. But did he actually get married? Did he grow up?
He's going to get married, but is the son going to get...
Him, or is the son going to get married? The wedding was supposed to be at the White House, but it was canceled because, well, I think it would have looked bad. So they decided to move it to the Bahamas. But 2 days ago, I think they got married. Anyway, let's say they had a small ceremony in Florida, and was it Trump? Okay, let's just say for the big wedding, well, he didn't go. He wasn't going to go because of the Memorial Day events, which are this weekend. That's it.
Yeah.
He was on his way to New Jersey when, in the middle of the flight, he turned around in Marine One and switched to the plane Air Force One. That's it. That's it. And he goes back to Washington to have this emergency meeting. And, well, the footage of the car in Washington showed it moving really fast.
Do we have images? Yes. Now, did you send those to me? No, I haven't seen them, actually. Well, if you can, send them to me. Okay? Finally, I mean, I'm talking about it again.
Yes.
Since finding them right now will be tough. Right? Anyway, while we view these images, let me give a big shout out to Novak's dad, who always brings us sayings and jokes, to Francisco Arce, who always has good comments. Well, obviously, to Adilson. How have you been? Adilson, huge shout outs also to Adilzia, all the way to Panama and to the whole community that's joining in. Isi Barra, thank you for being a channel member. Greetings to everyone supporting us. Thank you. Not just to be here, but also to leave a comment, to leave a little bit of yourselves. That's really cool too, because in the end, it's not just the information, it's not just the news, which is obviously the foundation, but also to build a bit of friendship and, I don't know, even a sense of familiarity with the whole community. The truth is that we really appreciate that, no matter what country you're in, because here it's a Hispanic community that analyzes, talks, discusses, and spends time together. All kinds of tips, even about cooking, right? And about movies.
And everything. The last two images are of Trump. One, I think, is of him getting off the Marine One, and the second, or maybe the other way around, is the cars rushing to get to the White House. Those two? Yes, those two. To have this meeting with the National Security Council. Look. Why? Look, no. Also, well...
All right, yes, I saw it then, yes, but it had already been deleted, yes.
Had been deleted. No, that's the one.
The one where they're in a big rush, that's the one I want to see.
Well, yeah, no, let me see if I can find it right now.
You let us down with the pictures.
Yeah, I'll find it for you now. I won't take long.
See. Meanwhile, in today's strange images, well, not strange, but at least interesting, this is the moment when Trump was entering the White House, which they say, well, it smells like construction. Let's say it doesn't smell new in some areas. And you see they're working really hard on that issue. Look, let's just see the image right now. Well, that was the moment when Trump arrived, and also this moment that was, well, captured on social media around the world. Let's go see if it's there. There it is. Super fast, right? Well, that's how it is.
But if I don't take that off...
If not, just imagine. Well, that's how things are right now in Washington, because things aren't. How do you say? Well, there's tension. And the images shown by the Iranians, the images and what happened today with the Gulf, I mean, the Gulf countries, right? We'll talk about it in a bit. But what they're saying there, it contradicts everything that's happening. I mean, we'll talk about it in a bit because it's a huge shift on their part, but let's not spoil it. Let's go step by step to review all the facts and information. And well, it would be great if you guys could help us out by sharing and liking. It's super important. Siendo. Look, with how constantly social media changes and with things sometimes not getting shared, we don't show up the way we should. That's how I feel. Well, there are a lot of colleagues, right, who complain that, hey, the video doesn't get distributed well, the viewers don't see it. You guys even tell us that you don't get the notifications. So, well, just so you know, it's always between 8:30 and 9. Today we're starting later because of circumstances beyond our control. But we always go live around those times in that schedule, let's say. The circumstances beyond our control are called traffic. That's the reality, right? The traffic is chaotic. What normally takes us 20 minutes took us an hour and a half. We had to try 3 different routes, each one worse than the last. We had to take one that was like the old reliable just to be able to get here. It was really complicated. A weekend very, very close to the World Cup. Everyone is in it. All the construction keeps going, keeps going, keeps going. So,
And besides, those from the
government, avenue blockades without notice. Notice, well, some are announced, others are not announced. And then Google tells me go this way. Well, Google Maps actually go this way. And I say, how can I go if it's closed? Well, yeah, this is all really, really crazy, isn't it?
Exactly. Yes, there's all kinds of construction from government projects to private ones. So honestly, everything is super slow.
Yeah, yeah. Check it out. Let's move on to other matters as well, because what's happening in the world is important. Look, take a look at this. Look, we're seeing an image. What we're seeing here is a series of huge lines. Check this out. It's in Pakistan. Look, Pakistan is one of the countries most affected by the issue of oil, of gasoline, because they don't have reserves. There are no reserves for them. I mean, it's simply not a, I mean, in the end, it's not a rich country. It's a country that has its weapons. It has its nuclear weapons. But aside from that, it's a rather underdeveloped country. That's the reality. An underdeveloped country that can't cope with the lack. And even so, Iran has more or less sent them gasoline. And the United States has also allowed it through so that Pakistan doesn't collapse. Basically, despite everything, there are videos from, for example, cities like Sistan and Balochistan, among others. And in Iran, they've had these long lines to get gasoline.
Exactly. Well, something that's basic for everyone, basically basic. The thing is that, well, these lines are starting to appear and they won't be the only ones if this situation continues, which, well, it seems like that's what's going to happen.
Gasoline is sold not only at the typical gas station, but there are black markets in different provinces. And this has driven the price up to 100,000 tomans, which would be about 75 cents per liter. I mean, it's not really expensive. I mean, compared to other countries, it's not really expensive. But for them, it's extremely expensive. And, well, the problem that Pakistan has is that it's a country. The cities are very far apart from each other. So whatever you want to do, you have to go to a certain city, and that's where you go. So you have to move around by car. The country isn't very well connected. So yeah, you end up traveling a lot by road. And, well, right now there's a big problem just to get a little bit of gasoline. So be aware of that situation. That's right. The images are also interesting and they catch your attention, especially in a statement from Eglin Air Force Base. Right? What happened there? What's going on with this situation? This topic?
Well, today it was reported in a statement from the United States that at the Eglin Air Force Base site, 2 people were injured after an explosion at the facility. Right now, an investigation is underway, and they are also looking into the development of high explosives at the base. There is also an investigation about this. According to the statement, these 2 people have been transferred to HCA Florida Forward Destin Hospital to receive treatment, and this is ongoing. As I mentioned, the investigation is underway.
Well, that's how it is, right? I mean, that's the situation at the moment. That's part of what's happening, let's say, in this whole matter. If we think about it, let's say, or if we put together all the strange things that have been happening, not in that sense, well, quite a few have added up. Let's say, not so much movement. It's been the day when the UFO topic is like, what? More UFOs, or what's next? No, I mean, it's really been intense. Well, yes, I mean, definitely there's been very little, how do you say, interest in that topic. Let's move on to other important matters. What's happening in the world? Look, the people in the United Kingdom are starting to run tests. Pay attention to that. They're already running tests as if they were at war. Basically, the United Kingdom is running tests in the subway system. This preparatory exercise is for a possible war that could even happen before 2030. Drills, where they turn subway stations into military bases. This, well, has honestly come as a surprise.
Right, exactly. We have to remember that the UK's underground also serves as a shelter in case a war ever happens. Much of it was used during World War II. And if another war were to happen, it would be the safest place for shelter.
Well, that's also quite something. Let's move on to other important matters. And well, what's going on between, well, this issue with the United States and the whole nuclear topic, right? Well,
Because Donald turned around today when he was heading to New Jersey because, Iran said we don't want to negotiate anything, we don't want to discuss anything. If the United States insists on the nuclear issue, which, is basically the whole point of this, it's not like, all of this was to take away their nuclear capabilities. In fact, today Donald Trump repeated again just a few minutes ago that Iran cannot have anything nuclear. And just a few minutes ago, the Iranian Minister of Foreign Affairs made a statement. This is Mayer Baghali, where he states that the United States is being unreasonable, that what they are asking for is excessive, and that they are not saying anything. The negotiations are focused on ending the war, and issues related to the nuclear program will not be addressed in detail at this stage. Therefore, if we try to go deeper into this issue now, we won't reach any conclusion. They made it very clear when in the last points they sent, which I think were about 5 or 6, the nuclear issue was not mentioned. They're not going to bring it up. They're not going to take it away from them. Yesterday, the Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei sent a message saying that the nuclear issue belongs to Iran. It's sacred and it's not going anywhere. So it's very unlikely that this line will be crossed. And since it's been the core of this whole war, it's very unlikely that this will be resolved. Honestly, I don't see how it can be solved. No, it won't be solved.
Beto, no, there's no way to see how. And look, if we look here, by the way, we're seeing the moment when Trump,
It's not the plane change.
he's switching over from the presidential helicopter, so to speak. That's Marine One, exactly. And Air Force One, there he hands him a coin. That coin is a challenge coin, as they call it, and it's something they give to the Marines. Sometimes presidents recognize them and give them a special coin. Let's say as a recognition to that specific Marine. And well, President Trump was making this move and heading back to Washington, D.C. It's not just that, it's also about the movements and another aspect of this test.
Another point that the spokesperson for Iran's foreign minister also mentioned is that what they want in this first stage is basically to set the rules. Of course, the rule is that the war should be fought on all fronts, which is another point where I find it very difficult to see them reaching an agreement. All fronts include Hezbollah and Israel, meaning Lebanon and Israel.
Well, that's it. Everything points. I insist. Do they want the conflict? Because they know that part is not going to be negotiated, that it can't be negotiated right now. That was basically what started the war. So that would mean that they continue with the nuclear program, that they keep the Emirates with the Emirates. Well, that's the last thing we needed with the Strait. For days, just because, right? And well, everything, and that they don't take anything away from them, that they don't impose sanctions on them, and well,
That they return all the money, pay for the damages they caused, and that all UN, European, and US sanctions are lifted. Just imagine. Yes, it's basically a Christmas wish list for Santa Claus. What they're asking for is ridiculous. It's excessive too. And well, the situation is definitely tough.
it's a huge issue. Now, just to tell you about this matter, yes, if we keep seeing these planes from Israel or the United States nearby, well, that's also something. I think the United States and Netanyahu have already lost their patience. Well, Netanyahu lost it a long time ago. It's already prepared. The thing is that Trump apparently didn't want to get into the conflict. That was the idea. Not to get into the conflict, for it not to continue. But
It's just that if you start something like that, you have to be prepared for the idea that it could spread.
that it could escalate.
Exactly. And another thing, a few moments ago, some members of the military and US intelligence personnel were told to cancel their weekend plans because of the situation with Iran, since something important could happen.
Of course, we shouldn't. Right now, Trump is actually joking around and people are making fun of him because he's just posting memes. I mean, Trump got back to Washington and everything, called an urgent meeting, and has spent his time posting memes and things like that. Look, here's one that really stands out because, what's this guy's name? Steve Colbert already did his last show, right?
Yes, his contract is.
So, well, Trump posts this image. Let's see if we can see it here. He posts this image, right? Where Colbert appears and Trump appears. Well, everything is made with AI, obviously, this whole little piece of video. And then he supposedly grabs it and throws it in the trash, right? Obviously, well, with this topic, he stays there dancing. He keeps dancing to the YMCA, right? The YMCA, yes. Well, Trump posted that, right? On his official account, right? But then the people respond to him too, right? The people respond with a similar video doing exactly where Colbert appears, throwing it away too, just like that. And dancing at, let's just say the internet is filling up with memes right now. Exactly. Well, they're kind of sloppy, but that's also part of what's happening. But he also posted, I think this was during the day today. I don't know if there is. I don't know what time he posted this, but he posted this image. Let's see if we can put it up here on the screen. He posts this about the dome. Let's see if I can put it up. On his official account from London. He puts the dome logo and puts the White House, right? Also another one made with her. But
interestingly, he plans to protect the White House. So you'll see how they manage.
They'll figure it out. But the White House will be protected.
Very well protected. That's good.
Well, so that's how things are today. Let's move on to other important matters. Listen, there are two topics that we have fewer concerns about. The issue with Iran, where they are claiming that a surprise attack might be about to happen. What's going on over there?
Well, according to some experts and officials, there is a warning about a possible surprise attack from Iran against the Gulf states and Israel. This is happening at a time when we basically don't know what's going to happen, whether the war will continue or if we're going to set another ultimatum after ultimatum after ultimatum. But these warnings are coming at a very, very, very dangerous time. The possibility of a preemptive Iranian attack arises after an assessment of the situation by high-ranking military officials and the Minister of Israel's Defense Minister, Israel Katz, and others. Security officials point out that Tehran might try to act before the United States and Israel decide to do so through diplomatic means, since the diplomatic route is not viable because there is no common ground. And to launch this surprise attack, similar to what happened at the beginning of Operation Epic Fury and Operation Roaring Lion. It's the same war, just Israel's name for it and the name the United States gave it, and it's about the direction of the Air Force operations. And the Israel Defense Forces, now under the direction of the Heidi Silverman Division and others. Well, they are currently holding talks. They are having talks with their counterparts in the United States to prepare for the possibility of a surprise attack from Iran.
The one that's missing, right? Because on both occasions, both in June and on February 28, those were attacks that came from the United States and from Israel. The first from Israel and the second, together from the start, right? Because in June, the United States only got involved at the end. If we see an attack from Iran, I think the response could be much harsher. Yet, the Republicans didn't block the end. That the war could spread, because in the end this was being negotiated in Congress. And Congress, which has a Republican majority, said no, they're giving Trump a chance for the war to continue if he sees it that way.
Exactly, that cancer took this step. Well, it passed the first stage, but the next ones couldn't go through. This blockage was expected, right? Ultimately, even if it reaches the White House, they could still block it, so it doesn't get you far.
Yeah, no, it doesn't really get you very far. The truth is, well, let's move on to other matters like what's happening in the United Arab Emirates. And they're joining Saudi Arabia, they're joining Qatar, and they're asking Donald Trump, oh, listen to what I'm going to tell you. I mean, this is crazy. They're asking him not to resume the war, when at one point it seemed like they wanted it to continue and wanted the regime to be overthrown. They're seeing something, I imagine they're seeing that it's going to be complicated or even impossible to take down the regime at this point with what they have, with the information available, and so on. They're making efforts so that the conflict doesn't continue.
Exactly. Both in the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia and Qatar, they've been asking President Donald Trump to give negotiations a chance. This is according to several people who are familiar with the matter, meaning insiders. And well, Abu Dhabi's position marks a change because it has suffered too many impacts. The truth is that Iran has been hitting them really hard. Iran has been hitting the United Arab Emirates really hard. They've really targeted them. And well, right now, despite that, even though at one point we saw that they, especially the Emirates, were willing to get into the war. Right now, let's say they've backed off.
They've backed off. They had to back off because in the end, well, we've seen what has happened, right? I mean, geography doesn't help them. To start a conflict like this, you would need to be much better prepared, have much more advanced systems, and be ready for the war to drag on. If you're not ready for that, if you don't have the what's it called? Mental preparation, financial preparation, whatever you want to call it, or the need for it, then you shouldn't have gotten involved, right? Conflict. Because the only thing that happened is that Iran comes out looking stronger. Like, look, it can keep them in check. And maybe now it could even launch a surprise attack.
Exactly. And one thing that, let's say, made the Emirates less eager to get into the war was the fact that neither Saudi Arabia nor any other country wanted to get involved in the fighting. Everyone backed out, saying they'd defend themselves, which doesn't help your confidence. What if everyone abandons you at the last minute?
Or, well, in the meantime, we keep seeing movements. We keep seeing how the United States may be trying to open the Strait of Hormuz. Who knows? Today, Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, was talking and said, look, we have a plan B, a military plan B, right? Because they also made that clear. So it's not a negotiated plan B. And he didn't specify what plan B is either, right? It reminded me of the plan B here in Mexico. We said that they use it a lot for anything. Like if this doesn't work out, well, there's a plan B. Well, plan B is something that isn't understood. Nobody knows what it is. When we saw today that a military operation was about to happen, we thought maybe that's the plan B right now, to force open the Strait of Hormuz and maybe take one of the Hormuz islands. But with the request from the Gulf countries, telling them to calm things down, it seems that things are going to settle. At least that's how it seems. I don't know, maybe the strategy is to publish that, and in reality they're scaring people about war. Who knows, right? But what the United States requires, and this was mentioned today at the meeting in Sweden by the Secretary of State himself, what they require from NATO and other possible allies, like Australia, for example, is that they lend a hand. They say they don't even have to be attacking, but at least help out, right? I mean, don't leave us alone with this issue. They say we can do it, but what's the point of having allies if they won't help us with this issue or at least assist in some way? At least with something. So with that, he left the door open to say, look, maybe help us out with more ammunition, maybe something else, right? So that the intention is clear and it doesn't just look like rejection. I mean, at least that was the message at a time when the United States is once again stepping in, I think a little bit. Sending 5,000 soldiers to Poland is a show of confidence in NATO, right? When it seemed like everything was going backwards, like on the way out, suddenly they make that move, which is also interesting, right? Let's move on to other topics. Let's go to something more about this.
If we go,
There's more about that topic?
if this topic, well, okay. Today, it was also reported by the media that there was a plot targeting Donald Trump's daughter, Ivanka Trump. See, involving an Iraqi terrorist who is linked to the Revolutionary Guard named Mohammed Bakr al-Sadi. By the way, his mentor was Qasem Soleimani, this person who lost his life on January 3rd, 2020 at the hands of Donald Trump when they gave the order, right? Yes, isn't it? In the end, he is the one responsible for this attack. This very powerful figure from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, who was gaining more and more followers, was super popular. And while this person, this Iraqi terrorist linked to Soleimani, had a map of Ivanka's house in Florida. He published maps, made threats online, and was actively involved in multiple terrorist attacks in Europe and the United States. This was already a very personal kind of terrorism, and it was aimed directly, obviously, at the president's daughter, Ivanka Trump, who is also the wife of Jared Kushner, who is very involved in the negotiations, and the level of revenge has really drawn a lot of attention, hasn't it? Because this person is a high-ranking figure from Qatar, Hezbollah, and the Revolutionary Guard, which are the groups that are in Iraq. And he has gone so far to reach this point, almost to the brink of, imagine that, or throw.
It's crazy, right? I mean, just imagine what this would mean for everything, right? Politically, geopolitically, for war. I mean, it would be a huge issue. And that's what I think they're afraid of, that the war could spread, not in a formal way, but in this kind of way, with attacks. Like that.
Exactly. This 32-year-old individual, by the way, was captured in Turkey on May 15th, so about 5 days ago. Well, plus 7 more, and extradited to the United States. Right now, he's facing 18 charges. And, well, it's something that sooner or later, they carry that anger, right? Since Soleimani, and now he's included, well, go ahead.
Let's move on to other matters, also important ones. Look, this image. No, here it is. It's a moment that's also interesting. What happened there?
Here we're seeing the launch, the test that SpaceX was doing for Starship, the spacecraft. Well, the plan is for it to reach Mars or the moon, right? Whatever happens. First, the rocket successfully completed this test. It's the 12th flight of the latest version of this gigantic rocket. And well, it was highly celebrated, obviously, by the SpaceX team. This is the latest version of Starship.
Starship B3 is taking off for the first time. So that's also an interesting topic. We're literally talking about a building flying. I mean, it's huge. It's basically the size of a building. And this is the one they plan to use in theory to take supplies to Mars or distant places, right? I mean, with this, they could take large amounts of tonnage to, for example, the moon or even Mars. So that's also the case. A special moment, let's say, in the field of private space exploration.
Oh, exactly. The flight lasted 65 minutes and, well, it successfully took off from Texas, where they have the base, shortly after 5:30 p.m. And, well, the two parts of the craft separated correctly, but the booster did not complete the planned burn. This was said by the company's spokesperson. His name is Dan Hutz. And also a part of the booster fell very quickly for the same reason and uncontrollably into the waters of the Gulf of Mexico. That issue, wow, one day this will cause a problem because pieces have fallen before without warning, and there are ships and things nearby. Yes, it's a dangerous issue.
There should be a warning there since this is very serious.
Well, the company didn't have plans to recover what fell, but, well, it was a very interesting maneuver and, well, the objective was achieved.
Right? The objective in the end was really to test if this worked well from the start, right? To begin with, that's great. So let's move on to other important matters. Today there was a meeting where Ursula von der Leyen arrived. We'd been meaning to get to that. And she arrived and said the following.
I asked her about the size of the investment. Well, we have the Global Gateway, which is our program. Today there was an Ursula von der Leyen, the union.
Well, that's, let's say, the moment when she was talking about the infrastructure, about the investment that is going to be made. There are some other images where the Mexican president, Claudia Sheinbaum, is meeting with von der Leyen at a very special moment, because in the end, this agreement has been around for some time already. Well, it has existed since 2020, but it has been reactivated. Not just reactivated, but they have fought over it and modernized it, because now there are other types of digital products, for example. Basically, it's a very big, complete opening, let's say, between Europe and Mexico. The European Union with this alliance, which, by the way, It already has with Canada and with some South American countries, which also have their own treaties. Well, in theory, I think it will help it. But in theory, it will make us less dependent, for example, on the business we do with the United States, which I mean is very important and also necessary. But it's not good having, well, all your projects in just one place. You have to diversify, even if it's just a little. And that's important. Now, there will be commercial cooperation, but also industrial and intelligence cooperation. I mean, we're also going to address security issues. Things like that will also be part of it. And the European Union is going to invest about 100 billion pesos in infrastructure in the country. That's also very interesting.
Right? Exactly. It's super important, isn't it? Not to put all your eggs in one basket, especially because we know that sometimes the United States can have a president who isn't so favorable to us and shuts the door on you. Well, sorry, to Mexico and shuts the door on you. And well, that's it. You lose everything.
Yes, no, of course. I mean, it's super important to be able to diversify, right? Because it could be with the United States, it could be with other places. But the point is, you have to diversify. In this case, well, we could have a Trump 2.0 and things could get really, really crazy with tariffs and all that stuff. And I think Europe is learning the same thing. Canada is learning the same thing. I mean, all countries are learning that you have to diversify, Europe included. They first realized with Russia and energy that relying solely on Russia was a serious mistake. And on the other hand, well, I also imagine that the United States learned it during the pandemic because suddenly they realized they depended too much on China to produce their products, even their medicines and basic things. So they said, hey, we gave all the production to China, and now that China shut down because of the pandemic, we were left with nothing. So now, well, everyone is also looking to diversify. I mean, to have different partnerships and alliances, because depending on just one, let's
say. Yes, well, actually, today, Mark Rutte said in this meeting about NATO, where Marco Rubio was present, yes, that you can't depend on the United States all the time, that they also have to, well, put more effort into the defense of Europe.
Well, yes. I mean, to begin with, today Mark Rutte is the Secretary General of NATO, right? I mean, I'm saying this, but it has to be said, right? Also, that part of NATO about depending too much on one country. I mean, and if one country carries too much of the burden, in the end, the alliance also becomes unstable, right? Let's go to the Congo, because things are getting complicated in that region of the world. But not only in the Congo, they're also being reported in Europe. Look, to begin with, there's already a case because it's the case of the doctor, the American doctor who has Ebola. He's in Europe, in Germany, being treated there. That was the agreement that was made because, well, it's not just anything. It's a serious case. I mean, well, it can be serious, but he's a doctor, he's a missionary, and he's being treated in Germany, honestly, with all the care so that he can survive this situation. He has symptoms, but there was another case as well, right?
Yes. Today it was reported that there is a patient with possible Ebola. I mean, he has symptoms. They say possible Ebola. And this person went to the Congo and is in the Netherlands. At the Radu de Mijineren hospital, this patient who could be infected with Ebola has been admitted. The person is in an isolation room, obviously in the hospital, and the patient was recently in the Congo region where the outbreak is besides. I mean, the patient, he was admitted as a suspected case at the request of the National Coordination Center for Infectious Disease Control. The person is in the high-level isolation unit. It's a specialized ward equipped for patients with serious infections like Ebola. Well, there the patient will receive diagnosis and medical care to first find out if they really have this condition or if it's just the flu. Either one. He's just being admitted with some symptoms. And where is he coming from? Because he's coming from Congo. Well, they immediately put him in there. They asked him no.
They didn't ask, right? They'll check later if he has it. But for now, he's being treated for his symptoms, since that's all that can be done with this strain. And another thing that also stands out, and I mentioned it quickly in this live session, we had briefly, Congo is taking more measures. I mean, Congo is taking action, as we said yesterday, right? There are 3 areas where they have an outbreak inside Congo, or they've been spreading it. And all of them are separated by hundreds or even almost 1,000 kilometers. They're stepping up, right?
Exactly. The authorities, especially in northeast Congo, where most cases occur, today they banned wakes and gatherings of more than 50 people with the intention of slowing down the spread a bit. Well, today they said we're going to be spreading faster than they thought. And that's why they raised the alert level from high to very high. There was a lack of resources and community resistance. Yesterday we discussed a health center being burned, and today a similar event happened. This shows their involvement in the area. Yes. Yesterday, the new Tibalu, it's called Tibalu del Sur. That's not true. Right now, you only know about that place because the rebel groups are reporting this case. I mean, that's the thing, right? Besides, you have zero political stability.
No. And that means it could be spreading more than people think, and they're not reporting it, right? I mean, that would also be really, really serious. There's a report that says there's a task force at the White House to see what's going to happen with the Congo national team, since they would have to isolate for 21 days or could be denied entry to the United States.
Exactly. Honestly, this World Cup it brings really bad luck. I mean, one thing after another. There's what's his name? The kid banging his head against the wall.
What a nightmare, right? What a horrible situation. And now this.
Between the war and Ebola, we don't even know what to say anymore.
Yeah, but it's really something, honestly, right? So, what else?
About the Congo issue already.
But Congo.
Yes, about Ebola.
Hey, well, the problem is still going on, isn't it? I mean, today we're going to keep updating what's happening, even though it's a distant issue. It's very low risk for, let's say, those of us who are far from the Congo, right? Right now, today, the WHO declared that there's a high risk in the area, in the surrounding area, that an epidemic could form, not a pandemic, an epidemic. That's all. So, I mean, it's a topic that, of course, they have to take action to prevent the problem from getting worse and all that. I thought they had already done that from the beginning, right? When it comes to burials and things like that, they just shouldn't be mass gatherings.
Just imagine how long has it been? 2 weeks? 3 weeks?
They're just getting started.
Only now are they acting, even though they knew which strain it was and that there is no treatment or vaccine. This should have happened immediately. But I don't know if it's Congo's fault, if the WHO is acting too slowly or what's going on, or maybe both.
Or maybe both. Exactly. Let's also address the other important matters. Something that doesn't end is the problem with the Druze. What's going on? According to reports, this Druze leader, Sheikh Hikmat Alaijiri, declared that the plans for an autonomous Druze administration in southern Syria are irreversible. He refuses to integrate with Syria. That's a very important issue because, look, in the southern part, let's see if we can put it up here on the screen, on the map, but in the southern part of Syria, that's where the Druze live, right? Let's see, there we go, here it is. The Druze live here in this part. There are two areas, especially in these, a little further south here in this area, around here, and in this other area up here, right? So that's where the Druze are. The Druze get along better with Israel than with Damascus and the current government. So in fact, they've been called terrorists several times. They've gotten into shootouts. I mean, we know they don't get along at all. So Syria has tried more or less, but it's very complicated. There are a lot of divisions. There are people who don't want the Druze in the area. There are Druze the Druze don't want. Well, they're at odds, right? There's a huge divide there. And what they're asking for is autonomy. What they're saying is that they want to be autonomous, to have autonomy in this area and in this area. And they're very likely going to have support, at least in part, from Israel, right? Because they've always had a good relationship with Israel. And that could also be important for how things are going to play out in this region, right? I mean, there's even the idea that the entire south of Syria could basically be run by the Druze, right? That could be a possibility. Of course, other groups don't really agree and they also live there. So those are the conflicts in the area and they're complicated. Not that complicated. And it requires a lot of openness and a lot of negotiation to be able to get along there because it's really tough, right? Man, the Spaniards and the Dutch have arrived, right?
But it does require a lot of negotiation.
So those are the fights that the Ottomans are all over the area. I mean, even so, I mean, those are the groups, right, that are already, I mean, come on, they have their ways, they have their, how do you say, customs and traditions. They really want to keep fighting and nothing will make them change. I'm not saying, well, that's their way and whatever you want, but these are things that have been going on for centuries and centuries, and the problems are still there. And suddenly, for a while, they would side with some, then with others, and the problems are still around. It's a huge issue. A lot of division in religion, language, everything, and also in ideas about how to get along, right? Let's move on to other important matters. What else do we have here?
Today we have a warning from Marco Rubio. We have to remember that it was at this NATO meeting where they said that the United States would reduce its military presence in Europe. He warned about this. Yes, absolutely. The head of diplomacy, as he is called, has assumed this. Marco Rubio said that eventually there will be fewer American troops in Europe than there have been historically. It's widely understood in the alliance that US troop presence in Europe will be adjusted. None of this is surprising, although I obviously understand why it causes some nervousness. And, well, Germany and Poland are trying to take a stronger stance. In fact, today, either today or yesterday, Merz said that he wanted to take a more active or stronger position within NATO. I mean, it's like they finally want to get their act together. Obviously, all of this takes a long time. In Europe, it's always incredibly slow. They should have gotten their act together about 2 to 4 years ago, at least. Yes. But anyway, you can see some movement in NATO, and well, they send Marco Rubio to issue this warning, right?
Well, let's see how things go. I mean, the NATO issue and how the Iran issue develops, because in the end, it's also become part of what's being adjusted within NATO, right? I mean, basically, they're saying, give us a hand over here. And Europe is like, well, this isn't my conflict. It's not my war. I'm not interested. No, thank you. There wasn't a plan. They didn't consult us. Goodbye. I mean, that issue seems to be very clear to Europe. Not all countries are on the same page, but there are some countries that have already made it very... Even the United Kingdom, which is going to send troops and actually ships, has insisted that they don't intend to get involved in the conflict, at least according to what they've said themselves. Let's go to the comments. How have you been? How are you doing? Greetings, Mr. X. Greetings to Jalala. How have you been? I hope you're well. Huge shout out. Fabian, Marcela, Martin. He says, these are days to take positions. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, says Jalala. In a few hours, Iran's response will be known. Peace step war. Will the markets go up or down? Good question. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
What happened? How much is oil? What did it end up at?
When I left, it was 104 and haven't checked again. But there were 15 minutes left before the market closed.
I mean, it probably stayed there.
Let's see. It stayed there. Let's check. No, it went up a bit. 105. It was at 104 when I told you. It's going up a little. It was at 104.93. Right now it closed at 105. And now it won't move until Sunday night. Yes, Sunday night.
Oil. They have today, well, tomorrow and part of Sunday to stabilize oil prices. Because if not, when the Japanese market opens on Sunday, it's going to skyrocket.
Exactly. Let's see what happens.
Because right now it would have easily gone up.
Yes. With that news, with everything that happened, it would have skyrocketed. And well, you guys, let's see. Being as optimistic as possible that there wouldn't be a war, right? I mean, that the war wouldn't continue, right? Yes. Assuming that's the most ideal scenario for all of this. What would have to happen for that not to happen, right? I mean, for the war to, I don't know, what signs would we have to see beforehand to say, look, yes, things are going to calm down? I don't see those signs. I mean, the only sign, more or less, is that today Marco Rubio said, and those words don't carry much weight for long, not for long. Marco Rubio was saying, we're about to... there is a small possibility of negotiation, they were saying, or something like that.
Trump also claimed the war would end soon, saying it would be over in a few hours.
A few hours, it's going to end. Yes, exactly.
They let me sleep peacefully. Yes, that's it.
And then, I mean, how did it go from that comment to military movements, threats? It doesn't seem like it lasted long. Cheers, Yo-Yo, how have you been? Very good. No. Guillermo says, what do you think they'll find gossip here from Humantla? How have you been? Greetings. Greetings. Preparing Japanese classes. Guillermo Niolo, big greetings. Hey, it would be great if you could give us some classes, right? That would be awesome. Greetings, Guillermo. Ofe Mendez, how have you been? Good evening to you too. Ofe, how are you doing? How are you? Martin as well. He says, was it possible that the Sahara dust has already reached Latin America? That Ebola spreads through the air? No, it's just fluids. Very, very, very close contact with fluids. Nothing about droplets or anything like that.
No, it's not like if I sneeze, everyone is doomed, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no. Greetings, Martin. How have you been? Says Carlos. He asks, when will you start reading the comments? Those stand out faster than anything else. I mean, to read them or what? Greetings, Carlos. He says, when are you going to start reading the comments? These stand out faster, says Carlos. Big greetings, Carlos. Well, that's what we're doing. We're right now in the middle of reading comments. Precisely, Alfonso Cayoso. Greetings from Pepe Astrid in Parkfield, California. How have you been? Hi there. He says, I dislike the Ayatollah's position, says Carlos. Greetings, Carlos. He says, Marcela, where are you? Greetings, Marcela. Says the good thing is that it doesn't spread. Yes, exactly. The spread is very slow, and that's also very good. Ofe commented, hello, Pepe, I'm sad. My little dog passed away. Oh, don't tell me, Ofe. That's tough. Well, we send you a big hug and hope you're okay. Right? So yeah, that's tough, isn't it? It hurts a lot, doesn't it? When dogs, all right? Our little pets leave us, obviously.
Yes, a lot. In fact, the other day there was an article that caught my attention because honestly, when Eva left, I really felt it.
Of course, yes. Especially, I mean, seeing her, right, when she leaves.
And that means the impact is the same as losing a relative, right? I mean, there's no difference in the level of pain.
Yes. I mean, it really stuck with me as a kid because I used to ask my grandfather why he didn't have a dog. My grandfather, ever since I knew him, he never had a dog. Of course, he did have one before. But later, my mom told me the story and he told me too. I mean, he told me about it. They had a dog and they loved him a lot. He was a really good dog. And when the dog died, my grandfather said it hurt him a lot. After that, he said he never wanted another dog. He truly meant it.
That it gets to you. But, well, I already feel like the idea is, well, what's the next now?
But yes. I mean, well, yes, of course it hurts. It really does. I mean, we totally understand. And look, I hope your heart opens the door to a little dog. And I mean, not to replace the one that left, but obviously it's always good to welcome another little member to the family. You know? Presca says, the good thing is we didn't try it. And greetings, Mr. X. How have you been, Mr. X? Lately, I haven't seen you as often, but we're really glad you're here. I hope everything is going well. And how's work going? Yermo says, when will you do an analysis of The Economist magazine? Hey, you know what? You're absolutely right.
What does anything matter?
No. And well, yeah, you know that every week they publish something. And besides, we also agreed to reanalyze the year-end issue together with the beginning of the year issue in light of everything that's happened, right? So yes, it's a topic. We're going to do it. Yermo, thanks for reminding us, and you've already mentioned it to us, right? You've already mentioned it to us several times. Let me leave it here. I think I hadn't put this in the notes before, as far as I remember. But anyway, I'll add it to the notes so we don't forget, right? All right. What else?
Greetings to MMT. Apparently, the Revolutionary Guard is sponsoring the terrorists who tried to come here and approach and bank. Does that justify an escalation in attacks against Iran? Well, it's someone sponsored because if they're part of Hezbollah, then they're someone sponsored. Yes. So well, that's not in doubt. Greetings to Ofe, also to Marcela Riquelme, to Omar, who says maybe the United States is waiting for the World Cup to end before taking more drastic actions in the war. I don't think it's wise to keep the army active abroad or to monitor several cities at home.
Good world. Yes, it could be like having limited attention, right? I mean, attention doesn't run out, but it's limited and at the mercy. Well, and now what might Moshtaba or the leaders who are running everything in Iran be thinking? I mean, with what you know, with what you've seen, what do you think they're thinking? I mean, they're saying, okay, what's the next step? I mean, that's also a question I'll leave for you. Teresa, how are you? I also suffer when I lose my fur baby, she says. Yes, of course, Teresa, greetings. Great greetings to Sophie. So, well, by the way, what was their name? I'm just asking. It says the whales show the big picture and the key for what's coming. Greetings to Lala.
Greetings to Isa Ibarra, 60 years old, Nova's dad, who says that today is the International Day for Biological Diversity.
Greetings to Fair Hernandez.
How are you?
And also greetings, says Fer. No, there was peace.
It caught my attention that cryptocurrency is dropping, and I started looking, and there's a lot of air traffic headed to Iran.
Yes, yes.
Exactly. They warn you. I mean, crypto and finance warn you that things are happening. That's happened to me. I've been analyzing, and suddenly I say, oh no, what happened? And then I go check the news and I say, this is happening, that is happening. Yes, that happens. I'll check. I see the big drop.
Okay, I already saw this. Greetings to Sophie.
How are you, Sophie?
Greetings, and it says that today is Novak Djokovic's birthday.
I'm a tennis fan and named my son after my favorite player. Look, it's his birthday.
Wow. Well, that's great. That's great. I mean, congratulations, right? To this tennis player, right? To the tennis player who is surely watching us. Yes. Who is it for you? And for those who play tennis, who is the best tennis player in the world right now? Like the one you would definitely say is playing, right? Who is at their, how do you say it? Who is still active and at their peak? How do you say it? In their prime. Yes, in their prime. Who would it be for you? Both for women and men, right? Let's see who wants to answer me. Aurelio says, greetings, Pepe. Another says the only sign is you lose the primaries, war or not. Well, it's just that
Me. I see that they're lost.
somewhere in the middle, yes, I'm going to lose it. I see that they're lost. But if you think that if he loses them, then that could also be that Ayatollah's people are waiting to say, after the elections, we'll make a move, but not right now.
Let's wait.
Exactly. And I mean, in the end, if they think the elections will calm things down, they won't make any move. But I wouldn't be surprised if they wanted to give up Hormuz. I mean, it's almost like you either take them by force or you leave them there. But yeah, it's something that,
Yeah, it's already getting really complicated.
how are we going to read this? If it keeps going like this, Hormuz will stay with the Iranians. How will we view this in 3 or 5 years? As a huge mistake. I mean, this war is going to be interpreted. I mean, if it isn't already. But let's say right now the whole narrative is from, well, Trump himself and so on. But if this stays the way it is, in 3 or 4 years, it will be seen as a huge mistake unless other things happen or something. But anyway,
The joke goes, he says, son, when you get on, tell the driver you're 4 years old, that way you don't pay. When he gets on the bus, the driver asks him, how old are you? 4. And when do you turn 5? When I get off the bus. Greetings to Mario Crespo, who says, the Italian cinema responds to you.
cinema, yes. This is a good omen.
So it's not like very, 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 very.
Alcaraz is also very good, but Sinner is really tough. Yes, I've been watching cinema videos. He's amazing, he's awesome. He basically gets to everything. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy, and he hits really hard. Yeah, he's amazing.
Great. He says it seems we need to move on to the first conflict in Iran or Cuba.
Well, the thing about Cuba seemed to me strategically smart, that they negotiated the $100 million issue, right? I mean, Canel's and the Cuban regime's strategy, in my view, is obviously going to be to avoid war, right? Avoid it. Keep up the narrative about sovereignty and all that. And that's it. At the same time, say let the aid come in, right? If you want help through the Catholic Church, I mean, if they're the ones distributing it, there's no problem. But don't touch anything else, right? And the alerts will be at the highest level. Dora. But this somehow made them fewer, I think. Right? Less viable for an intervention right now. Right? Because that support or that backing was negotiated and they're going to be there. Pressuring, they're going to be pressuring. Well, that's how it will be. There's a very curious piece of news. I don't know if you've seen it, but look, this is being reported by a source that I'll put here on the screen. It's this report where they say, and it's actually an exclusive from CBS. I just happened to see it first from a different source. But CBS, well, I didn't see it with CBS, says the following. Let's see what you all think about this. What does this mean for the conflict? And why would the Cubans allow something like this? Is it for the better? There goes the director. The director of the CIA, John Radcliffe, according to this, went to Havana. One of the paramilitary leaders involved in the capture of Nicolas Maduro during his meeting with high-ranking officials of the Cuban regime. I mean, the CIA takes him there. One of those who carried out Maduro's capture. Yes, according to multiple sources. Radcliffe, the one from the CIA, introduced the operative as a man who killed their agents in Venezuela. That's how it was. He went to Cuba. Just imagine a CIA guy shows up, right? The guy from the CIA shows up, sits down with the Cubans, and tells them, this guy right here was one of the people who had been killing your people in Venezuela. Just imagine that. Well, that's what he says. Now, he says it as part of a move that raised tensions between Washington and obviously Cuba. If this was the case and they keep up this kind of negotiation, which I find striking, I don't know if the idea was to provoke, to see how weak or strong the Cuban government feels or what it was. But just imagine the scene if it's real, right? Because that's how it's reported. But I mean, if that scene was real, then this would definitely be an issue of total provocation. Let's see how they react. And in that reaction, you can gauge how strong or weak the Cuban regime feels. There's also this idea that Canel is already very isolated, right? That there are others operating there and that Canel is almost out already. I mean, there are a lot of versions right now, but it seems like his position is no longer very sustainable. That is, it's a crisis that's gone on too long, too much strain on the population. These are circumstances where there are a lot of reports of people getting by on very little or even eating out of the garbage. I mean, it's a very widespread issue now, and it doesn't seem like it's going to change anytime soon, honestly, right? Someone was saying here 60, maybe 67 years, and they say that in June, which is when the remembrance, the celebration happens. I think it's June. I think it's June when the celebration of the Cuban Revolution takes place. So what's supposedly happening is that they're not going to allow that celebration to take place, right? That celebration is the deadline, right? From that point, the revolution should no longer exist or should already be in transition. Apparently, they don't want that point to continue. That's what's being reported, let's say, leaks in this whole supposed negotiation that's happening. Well, supposedly because the negotiation is actually happening.
Taking place.
Exactly.
That's how they take him to scare them.
I imagine so. I mean, to put pressure.
Why not? Why take someone like that? Yes, for that reason.
To apply pressure and gauge reactions, right? But that's it.
Yes, and the funny thing is seeing several people come out, children, spouses of people from the Cuban leadership, and they say, no, well, if he's going to come, let him come for him. Whatever, doing the same thing that Maduro did at the time, right? He used to say, guards, come for me. But well, they did come, right? And if this continues, yes, sooner or later they'll end up going after Raul Castro.
Probably, right? Probably. Mario Crespo says, hello, Aldo Barajas, and good evening. How have you been? He says, all of this feels very Game of Thrones to me. Totally. He realizes that it doesn't.
It's just that Game of Thrones is 100% based on real wars, right? And you can see it. Greetings to Meta, says Adina Zabalenka, the #1 tennis player last year.
Adina Zabalenka. Yes, I know who she is. I haven't seen much of her game, but I'll look her up.
Greetings to Mario Crespo as well. He says, it's like an offer you can't refuse, like in The Godfather. A little more, like The Godfather.
No, yes, that's exactly it. Exactly.
Yes, greetings to Claudio. How are you, Claudio?
What's up, Claudio? How are you? Any news, Claudio?
Sorry, there are 2 messages, and the comment said, honestly, here at the station, we think that indeed there will be major changes and several signs on a planetary level, including the Super El Niño phenomenon. We'll keep broadcasting with you and supporting you. Regards, Claudio.
Hi, Claudio. Hope you're all. Well, greetings to everyone at the station. Hey, Brezeka, how have you been? Greetings.
Hello, this is Leonardo and CPP. I was watching several documentaries where analysts realize that wars serve to boost industry in various ways and are perpetuated for political purposes. There are also some, the other day we were watching today, we saw your point. Yes, I think so, that wars happen when there is a lot
Recession.
economic inequality. And right now we're experiencing a big problem with young people. So this could also lead to, well, a war as well, in part.
I think young people, and not so young people too, right? And young people, yes. I mean, yes, our generation, I mean, it's a generation that practically didn't do or didn't achieve to have their own properties or their own property, right? I mean, I see it. I see it. And it's the same with a good part of my friends. In those cases, well, no, they might have some property, maybe something inherited from their dad, but they haven't really earned it themselves. It's not like they can say, here's my house and my Prussian. That's just not true. And I'm talking about people who more or less make decent money, more or less, but it still doesn't work out. I mean, a lot of things have gone up. The cost of living, right? He says, how have you been? Hi, Marcela Preseca, greetings.
Novak's dad says that the best among all those playing today is Alcaraz, but the best one trying to win his last slam is Novak Djokovic at 39 years old. He is considered the best athlete in history.
Well, yes, just imagine. Today, at 39 years old, maintaining an ultra high level, right? It's incredible, isn't it? And yes, I have seen Alcaraz's game. It's impressive.
It's just amazing.
His flexibility is impressive. The playing style he has, I find it very entertaining, very interesting. He gets to every ball too, right? To all of them. I mean, voices, it's really good. He's very likable too, right?
Yes.
Very nice. Greetings to anyone I missed. Raul Sachs, to Javier Castillo, who says, hello, Pepe. Thank you for keeping us well informed. Thank you, Javier.
For being here. Thank you. A huge shout out. Greetings to Juan Carlos Sanchez as well, who's watching us from Mexico City.
Greetings, Juan Carlos.
Greetings to Emma Andrade and Blanca Barceló. How are you, Blanca?
What's up, Blanca? Hey, well, let's wrap things up. If anything important happens tonight or early in the morning, we'll be talking about it live, obviously. We'll discuss more tomorrow.
Greetings, Panterita.
Toca greetings, Panterita. Tomorrow night, we'll talk about movies and series after the live stream, after the news. We'll go over the recommended movies and series, both yours, mine, and Astrid's. Astrid, well, we'll keep talking, right?
Remember, we're on WhatsApp, Telegram, Facebook, X, and Instagram. And we send live stream notifications.
Great, then. Greetings, Mr. X.
Big greetings, Mr. XMT. And have an excellent weekend.
So we interrupt your programming regular. Thank you for tuning in to The Truth. This is Pepe. Live! The truth is intense, harsh. The unusual is real, you. Here we analyze it from a global perspective. Don't miss out. Tune into the channel. PP Leave controlling the signal. Pepe and Astrid telling it like it is. Raw journalism. Here it's respected. Turn on alerts. Don't lose track. Until next time. Yes, sir. We're taking attendance.